going to be mean. I'm just going to call you out, embarrass you in front of everybody like I did this morning. Because it's not easy to get talking up there on my base. Crazy and everything. But some things I want to talk on tonight. You know, I preach a lot about how things is going to get rough. And I don't know if you noticed this or not. But when all this started, I told everybody it was not going to get better. It was not going to go away. It's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Because for 2,000 years, the Bible said the end's going to come. And Jesus warned us. He said he don't want us to be offended when the end comes. So he warned us about things going to happen. Earthquakes and pestilences, great falling away. Man is going to get wicked and have without natural affections. But one thing I don't want this church to miss, and it's not being preached much around here, even though we're fixing to go into some really rough times, is that it says the Christians are going to be persecuted at the end days. And it said there's a man coming called we call him the Antichrist. And he is going to make war on the saints, is what Revelation 13 says, and he's going to overcome them. And so the saints are going to go through some hard times. And a lot of preachers on TV will teach you, they will say, you know, we're not going to go through hard times. We're going to, before everything gets bad, God's just going to take us out of here and then let the ones left behind go through all the rough stuff. But that's not what the Bible teaches. And if you ever notice, in the time a TV preacher says that, they don't have any scriptures. And I believed that for a long time. A lot of Christians believe that, and we just let our guard down. And we let the world get wickeder and wickeder, and we're all like, hey, we're going to be out of here anyway. You know, Kirk Cameron was in some movies called Left Behind, and people really got into those books. He showed people in a jet plane. All of a sudden, the pilot disappears. I was like, ah. People, traffic jam in the highway because people disappeared. And Kirk Cameron was kind of like me. He started thinking, man, I don't know. I need to look into this. Kirk Cameron looked in and said, pre-trib rapture is not in the Bible. So he jumped out. He said, no more of me doing these movies. So then they got Nicolas Cage to play. I don't think Nicolas Cage cared what the Bible said. But anytime Hollywood puts you some kind of weird doctrine, you might want to watch it because it's probably wrong. And I want everybody to question everything I say. I want everybody to take what I preach, write notes, go home, look it up, see if I'm right. I will not get mad one bit if I preach anything wrong and you want to come to me and say, hey, this was wrong. I know the human nature is when somebody disagrees with you, they instantly get mad. And it used to make me real mad when people didn't agree the way I believe the way I do and didn't agree with me on certain things. And now I read in Proverbs, it says all contentions is caused by pride. Meaning, anytime there's arguments and fightings in the world, either one person is selfish, the second person is selfish, or they're both selfish. So if I get mad at somebody because they don't believe like I do, maybe I'm selfish. Maybe I'm like, how dare you not believe like me? How dare you not believe like I believe? But at the same time, though, it is important that we make sure we get our doctrines right and teach right. But what I want to talk about today is the 12 disciples. And I'm going to talk about Jesus' brothers, too. I'm going to run through this pretty quick. I know we had a policy here ever since we started that we not put a clock on the wall. And I do not want to limit God. We will not be dictated by a clock. But also, I would like to have one in the back so I don't stand up here too long. Because I know the human nature, the human attention span is only about 30 minutes. And then once you go past that, people will just start drowning you out. I can see it. I can see it when I go past 30 minutes. People start doing like this right here. They do like it, usually right in the middle of the best part. But I just don't want the church to know they think they're going to come here and be bored to death. People don't like to be bored. I remember growing up, a preacher would just go on and on and on. People wouldn't be listening to him, nothing. They'd just be going on. People like, ugh. I think that's one reason it's hard to get people in church today. It's just long-winded preachers, just boring. I don't want this church to be bored. And I'm very thankful that all you kids are here. When we get on you, I know people Facebook Live don't realize, if you flip the camera around, we got a pretty good number here. And the average age is probably 15, if you count the old people and the young people and everything. We got a lot of young kids here. I thank God for that. And like Gary said, he said, suffer the little children. Sometimes that's what we do. We suffer. And that means we have patience. But we're so glad we're here. They're here. And we welcome all ages here. We need all ages here. This church is an open door for, I don't care if you've been on drugs. I don't care if you're a kid. I don't care if you're 150 years old. You're welcome here. I don't care what your past is and been in prison. I don't care. You're welcome to come here because church is for people that needs it. But so this is the name the 12 apostles are these. First one is Simon, who is called Peter. And Andrew, his brother. James the son of Zebedee, and John his brother. Okay, most of Jesus' disciples were common, everyday guys. They were fishermen, the ones that they named. We don't know what all of them were, but we know one of them was, four of them was fishermen. And one was a tax collector. Let me tell you, as an adult, people still don't like tax collectors. And they definitely didn't like tax collectors back in Jesus' day. But that's one of the people Jesus picked to be his disciple. Judas was a thief. Jesus knew that Judas was a thief. And he's like, here, you're over my money. That showed you how much Jesus cared about money when he's on earth. He knew that God was going to provide him. It didn't matter if he had the best treasurer on this earth over his money. But he put a thief over his money. And, but that's Peter. That's Peter's fate. Now, according to Fox's Book of Martyrs, Peter's wife died before he did. She was martyred for the gospel's sake. So we read in the Bible about the disciples and how they're called by Jesus, and Jesus, they walked with Jesus. They seen the resurrection, and they seen the ascension. And I'm going to tell you right now, people, you will not be crucified upside down for something you don't believe in. You will not be crucified upside down for something that you believe was a lie. You will not be crucified upside down if you didn't have a life worth dying for. I'm telling you, that's my life. My life is worth dying for. Everything God has done for me and Jesus done for me, it is worth a death like that. And I'm teaching this today for whatever comes up against you. Many people deny Christ for far less than that. They deny Christ because they get a raise at a job and they quit practicing their Christian lifestyle. Many people meet a man or a woman, boy, they're out the door. They turn their back on God. Peter didn't turn his back on God. He was crucified. And he was crucified upside down as a witness to everybody who was there behind it that, hey, I believe in this. I'm not even worthy to be crucified the same way our Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. I'm not even worthy to be die like him. And they flipped him upside down and crucified him. All the blood going to his head, couldn't scratch his nose, his bones are breaking, his muscles are busting, his lungs collapsing. That's what he did so we can have the gospel. Next, that's Andrew. The fisherman Andrew. Now this stuff ain't recorded in the Bible, and people ask me, why is it recorded in the Bible? Well, the Bible's pretty thick, a lot of people don't read it anyway, so just add everybody's death and a bunch of other stuff, and, But this is according to church legend. You got to understand, these guys go to town, so they went to a town like Bean Station. People didn't know how important they are. They didn't know who Andrew was, and Peter and John and James and all that. And they would kill them when they would write records about it. And they would take just historians and researchers to try to find how did these guys die. Everybody didn't have paper and pencil like we had today. They didn't keep records like we do today. But Andrew, one of Jesus' disciples, died on the X-shaped cross. He didn't even feel worthy to die in the same way Jesus did. And they said while he was hanging there, he lived almost 3 days preaching. He held on to life as long as he could hold on to. Preaching everybody, don't die, go to hell. Jesus Christ died and raised on the third day for you. God sent his son for you. I tell you what, the sacrifices I made is nothing compared to that man right there. Can you imagine preaching, hanging like this on a cross with nails in your hands and your feet? And man, most human beings would want everybody responsible for that to die and go to hell. But he still had a burden for his soul. One's that nailed a hammer in his left hand. He had a burden for him. One's that nailed a hammer in his right hand. He had a burden for him. That's how the Apostle Andrew died. The next one is James, the son of Zebedee. They grabbed him, and Herod had him put to death, and they grabbed him and jabbed him with a knife right through the chest. Sounds like fun, don't it? The disciples knew what they was going to go through. They still preached the gospel for us. And we're so scared. Christians are living in so much fear today. You have no clue. You have no idea what these guys went through. You went through nothing. I went through nothing. There's not a Christian in the United States of America who went through anything like these guys did. And we wouldn't have the gospel right now tribulations. I just showed you 3 men right there that had to go through tribulations. The next one is John the Revelator. He died of a natural death. Good for him. He died of old age. But let's don't leave out one important fact. They tried to kill him boiling him in oil. How many of y'all's cooked in here? Cooked eggs or fried French fries or cooked something real hot in a hot stove. How'd you like somebody to pick you up, strip you down, and put you in that grease? That's what happened to John the Revelator. But it was not his time to die. He was exiled and put on an island of Patmos. An island separated from everybody. No good food, no good resources, no good comforts at home. He was stuck on an island. But what they didn't know, they got a hold of some ink and paper. And God gave him a revelation. He wrote the book of Revelations for us. And the Bible tells us, blessed are those who read the book and study the book. And I'm telling you, it's coming alive. The book is coming true now. And we need to be studying and appreciating what a man who boiled in oil did for us. Another disciples was Philip, Bartholomew, Thomas, Matthew the publican, James of the son of Alphaeus, Lebbaeus, whose surname was Thaddeus. I said, what kind of faith these guys had? Here's Philip, crucified, just like Jesus was. Crucifixion is the absolute worst death for humanly possible. Being burned alive to me is one of the most horrible, horrific deaths I could ever think of. They say it don't touch crucifixion. Being burned alive, if you're ever tied up, gasoline poured on you, and you know you're fixing to die, wait about 2 or 3 minutes, you're gone. Crucifixion, it can take days. Slow, just a miserable, slow, miserable, agonizing death. Christianity is no joke. Anybody who would die like this knows what they got. I know what I got. Do you know what you have? Would you die for this? I would. The next one is Bartholomew. Pay real close attention to this picture right here. You see what that is right there? Bible said, well, not the Bible, but history says he was flayed to death. And I always thought that meant just they went up to him like Zorro, just chopped him. But flayed means they skinned him alive. When you read Bartholomew's name in the Bible, realize something. They skinned him alive. He did not deny Jesus Christ because he was scared of something. He didn't deny Jesus Christ when they pulled the skin off his body. He had to live with no skin on his flesh, and he did it because he believed in Jesus Christ. He believed the gospel would set people free. I'm telling you, people do not die for something that they don't believe in. And boy, you have to believe it pretty good to be skinned alive, wouldn't you? The next one is Thomas. You ever heard of Doubting Thomas? You know his church is still in India today. Thomas, he wasn't a doubter. Once he seen Jesus, he said, I ain't going to believe unless I can touch him and all that stuff. We know the story. But then he touched him, seen him, he said, oh Lord, my God. He called Jesus God for capital G. And then he went out to India and started a church in India, and it is still there today. What was Thomas's faith? Jabbed with a spear. Jabbed with a spear. For preaching the gospel of Christ. And even in India today, there are socialists over there. And I heard the old evangelists, go dig up some old preachers used to travel the country. If you think socialism is so great, listen to what them devils used to do to Christians under socialism. Lester Sumrall said they grabbed a preacher in China. He said he'd have to go underground. The Chinese church was underground. Real dangerous to be a Christian in China. Still is today. He said the police grabbed a preacher out and threw him out in the middle of the street and sicked German shepherds on him. Said they picked every piece of meat off his body in front of all the Christians hiding out watching. And they said, where's your God now? Won't you come raise him from the dead now? And Lester Sumrall said, boy, you wish somebody raised you from the dead after you've been in hell for a few billion years. And now we're begging to be under that kind of government. Let me tell you, the devil's always been under that. Because when you're under that kind of stuff, you are a slave. People own you. People control you. And that's what we're falling in today. They're crushing our economy. They're crushing our way of life. And they're doing that so they can control us. And we're being controlled, and we're following for the trap. The Bible's warned us for 2,000 years. Now it's here, and we are falling for the trap. Jesus warned us so we wouldn't, but we still are. This was Matthew, the tax collector. He was jabbed to death with swords. Sounds like fun, don't it? Preaching the gospel, get jabbed with swords. Gary can't get nobody to come to church because everybody's scared. Can't get nobody to church, nothing. How'd you like to go to church when you're going to get jabbed with swords? Let me tell everybody something I mean Station area. They used to have churches here with watchtowers on it with sniper towers. You know why they had to have that? Because the Indians could come and kill them. The natives could come and kill them. On the way to church, you had to go to church like this, and I don't know if you're going to die or not. You knew while you went to church, somebody had to sit out there for gun like this where everybody praise the Lord. Then they get back on their horses and walk into what they do and go home like this. They didn't have good air conditioner. They didn't have good heat. They didn't have padded pews, but they still came in the shadow of the valley of death to church to praise the Lord and be stationary. Now we have air conditioner, pews, everything you can think of. And people's like, nah, I'm just going to sit home and watch Netflix. Who cares what everything God's done for me? I'm sitting home. Next one is James Alphaeus. They got him and just killed him with swords. I'd still be. Anybody went fishing and jabbed a hook in a worm, how horrible the worm feels, how gross it is. That happens to human beings. Here's a good one. Thaddeus was killed with an axe. Who'd like to be chopped up with an axe? That was Thaddeus' death. And then we have Simon the Canaanite and Judas Iscariot, who also betrayed him. Here's a good one. Simon the Canaanite. He was sawed in two. They didn't have chainsaws back then. They didn't have jigsaws, electric saws. They had these big old tree saws. They put it on top of his head. And back and forth and back and forth. And cut him in two while he's alive. But he still preached the gospel for us. And Christians are scared. I'm telling you, I went to 2 funerals this week in August. Here comes the get in trouble time. One of them was full of Christians. I've never seen more fear in my whole entire life, anywhere I've ever been. The other one was just regular old Joes, didn't go to church much. And they wasn't a fear. They was hugging on each other, loving on each other, happy to see each other. I'm like, man, what a shame. Christians have been absolutely the worst example during all this mess. And I'm not saying don't be careful. I'm not saying don't be careful. But I'm saying you don't drop your Christianity because of something that the Bible warns you about is going to come. It says when you see that day approaching, don't forsake assembling yourself together. And that's what this church is going to continue to do. Assemble itself together. And I understand caution. I understand the people, not the elderly. And I preached this morning. Man, they have to take the bench for a while because the disease is out there. It is real. We know people's had it. We know people died of it. But while the elderly has to sit and take a bench a while, the younger people is going to have to pick up, grab the ball, and run with it. We can't sit and let the other people do it anymore. It's our turn. We're going to have to take it and run with it. How'd you like to be solved in two, Gary? Which one? Anybody want to pick one of these? I don't know. I think I'd take the jab of the sword or the spear and just get it over with quick. Woo! Can you imagine standing there and they got you? And these old dudes stick a saw on your head and they start feeling it run back forward. It'd take you a minute to die. That's Judas. I didn't put a real gruesome one up. But Judas jumped and killed himself. He's one to betray Jesus. The devil led him to go hang himself. And he jumped off a cliff and hung himself. And they said his bowels gushed down there. They're pretty gruesome. I didn't want to put that one up there. But, and then Jesus, have heard us practicing the Mary Do You Know song. Mary, did you know it's your baby boy and all that? Because it's a song about when Mary's holding her son. Said, don't you know that he's going to die and be crucified and whipped? And I don't know if it says all that or not, but I'm just saying it's kind of referring to, you know, when you're holding that baby, what he's going to have to go through. But Jesus wasn't the only one of Mary's kids that died for the sake of gospel. All his brothers died for the sake of the gospel. And they said to him, verily I say to you, they which shall follow. Oh, okay, back up. This is back to the disciples. Let's hold on to Jesus' brothers for a second. But here's the reward for those who follow Jesus Christ. And Jesus said to them, verily I say to you, that ye which shall follow me, and he's talking to the disciples here, in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye shall also sit upon the 12 thrones, judging the tribe of Israel. That is the 1,000-year reign that Revelation 20 and a bunch of the Old Testament talks about. Their reward for their death and for their zeal and for preaching the gospel in the face of death and spreading the word so we can have it. Their rewards, they get to sit with Jesus and rule the 12 tribes of Israel. Sounds like a pretty good reward, sit with Jesus, being his right-hand man throughout eternity. Then we got his brothers, they named his brothers by name. His mother called Mary, and his brother James and Joseph. Joseph means Joseph. He had a brother named Joseph Jr. And Simon and Judas. And it ain't Judas Iscariot. Okay, right there is James, his brother James. He wrote the book of James. He was Rabbi James, but Jesus said, don't call no man rabbi, so he became Pastor James. And then there's 3 ways he could have died. They could have stoned him to death, threw him from the pinnacle, or just stabbed him to death. I put up stoning because I wasn't real sure. But either way, they killed him for the sake of the gospel. As another one of Mary's sons killed, not just Jesus. And then, that one is, let me get his names. That one is Judas who wrote Jude. He was crucified too. So she didn't just have one son crucified, she had 2 sons crucified. Now, don't you see what our forefathers did? The guy who helped the most in getting the Bible written into English so we can understand it, William Tyndale, he invented the English language. Careful when you say, oh, they put the wrong English word there, because he's the one who invented the English word that put there, okay? I think he might know what word he's talking about. But he died. He gets burned at the stake for making the Bible into English. Man, there's people getting killed all over the earth right now. We don't realize how fortunate we have it. The Bible is illegal in like 27 countries. It's like 13 of them, they catch you with it, you're dead. And we got so much freedom here. We can get on Facebook, YouTube, say come to church, I love Jesus and all that. But that's even slowly going away. Our government right now, Supreme Court, I'm almost done, please pay attention to me 1 second. The Supreme Court voted 5-4 that churches can still have church in New York and the government couldn't shut it down. Everybody's like, that's a victory, 5-4. Listen to me. 5-4 is not a victory. 1 vote different, it would have been 4-5 the other way, and they wouldn't be allowed to have church. It needs to be 9-0. According to the Constitution, they cannot forsake the assembling of ourselves together for no reason. But our Constitution is going out the door. There's somebody over all this stuff. Can you tell me why every country is doing the same thing concerning COVID? And the more liberal they are, the more stricter they are. The more conservative they are, the more lenient they are. Well, yes, and then you crossed the border in Kentucky the other day. 30 miles from here, it's a different world, ain't it? I could not believe it. I got cussed out and everything. And people looked at me like I was walking around with underwear on my head or something when I was up there. But somebody's over every bit of this. Somebody is helping running the whole planet right now, and he's going to be revealed real soon. 4 companies own 90% of the media out there. 4 companies. That means 4 bosses, 4 leaders are running 90% of our news. That's why I don't follow the news. That's why this church is not going to follow the spirit of the news. We are going to follow the Spirit of the Lord. Yes, things are bad. Yes, things are going to get bad. But we have to follow the Spirit of God through all this. I'm not following the spirit of Karens. I'm not following the spirit of scaredy cats. I'm not following the spirit of the lukewarm. I'm not following the spirit of sinners. I'm going to follow the Spirit of God through all this. And I'm done. Anybody got something to say? You want to turn me off, somebody?